Welcome back to another episode of the Mainly Hoops podcast. We're back with another game preview here. Big time matchup between number 3 Michigan, number 10 Illinois. This game at Illinois. Of course, Michigan coming off the tough loss in DC last weekend to Duke. Offense just didn't really look all that good. Duke's defense, credit to them for how they kind of shut things down. On the other side, Illinois had a tough loss last Saturday in overtime at UCLA, a game in which they led by 20 in the first half, I believe. They were unconscious early, came back to earth later on, lost 95-94. So both teams kind of probably looking for a big win here as they head down the stretch into conference tournament play. Michigan did play in between those games with a win over Minnesota. But both teams surely are hungry for this one. Top of the Big Ten. Both these teams are near the top. So it should be a fun one. But Cody will start on the Illinois side. What does Illinois need to do here to pick up a win?
Yeah, and Illinois in that game had a 20-0 run early in the first half against UCLA and still found a way to lose that game. And also, I was just looking at the Minnesota Michigan final box score. I didn't realize Minnesota only played one bench player and he only played 7 minutes. It basically, they just ran their 5 guys out there for the entire game. They're struggling with depth right now. But ultimately, for Illinois to win this game, I'll start on the offensive side. I think it's finding consistent success in pick and roll. Michigan, they're going to play a ton of drop coverage at least while Mara is on the floor. They've done, they'll switch up coverages when he's off the floor. They'll switch at all 5 positions at times. But while Mara's on the floor, I think they need to take advantage of the drop coverage that Michigan's going to be playing. I think there's going to be opportunities for Wagler and Boswell to create out of this area. Wagler manipulating pick and roll, getting to his dribble jumper right off of the screen, I think is going to be huge in this game. Illinois overall is an elite pick and roll offense, arguably the best in the nation. So they're in the 99th percentile in pick and roll efficiency. That's all possessions, including passes as well. And that's on a 96th percentile frequency. I mean, Michigan, they defend the roller extremely well, but obviously because the strength of this defense is their bigs, and they're probably the most elite rim defense in the entire country, but they struggle a little bit more when they guard the handler. And I think that's where Wagler and Boswell can have success. But I do think the roller in this game for Illinois can also have success because it's going to be more of a pick and pop, basically exclusively. They can still play out of short roll a little bit, like Thomas Ivicic and Mirkovic can get to their push shots in the lane. I know Underwood doesn't love those shots overall, but it is going to be an avenue. But they're going to fan their games out to the perimeter, and this is the real area in which you can beat this Michigan defense because, like I said, you're not going to beat them at the rim. They're too dominant, they're too big, they're too physical, and Mara is obviously he's probably the best shot blocker in the entire country. So if you can space him out along with the other bigs of Michigan, I do think you can put them in kind of a tough spot. And I think Illinois is potentially the best offense in the country overall, and I think this is a pretty solid matchup for them when it comes to their scoring efficiency. You look at the games where Michigan's kind of struggled to defend, it was against teams that can play 5 out. You look at the home loss to Wisconsin, they lit up the world, obviously, but that's kind of how you have to beat this Michigan team. You're not going to beat them on the glass and at the rim. Minnesota had some success as well. They actually scored it inside the arc at a pretty high level. They shot it 13 of 21 inside the arc, which is rather impressive against this defense. So it kind of spaced out their bigs throughout the game, one off of cuts fairly consistently. Nebraska had some success. I think they would have had even more success with Rink Mast in the game. So, but they still found a way without him regardless. So I think it's definitely a good matchup on the offensive end. And the fact that Illinois doesn't need transition to have success, like Michigan is an elite transition denial defense. Illinois has really slowed it down this year. Underwood typically loves to play in transition. He is very analytically based, obviously, and then getting out in transition when you can is obviously the right thing to do, but they haven't ran as much. They've been playing more in the half court, and in this game, I think that'll suit them well. The defensive end, it's a little more murky overall, and it's mostly because I'm just a little bit concerned about this Illinois defense against quality competition. They're 23rd in adjusted defense for the whole season, but when you filter for top 50 competition over the course of the entire year, they actually fall to 67th in adjusted defense. And, it really does match the eye test. Like, just high level talent. And it's more so like defending in ball screens where they've had a really tough time. Like their strict, like deep drop coverage, allows for guards to have a ton of success. And maybe Michigan doesn't have that avenue consistently in this game. Like Michigan wants to play through their bigs. And, I think that's going to be solid here for Illinois because, their positional size across the board, they have multiple bigs that they can go to at least slow down Michigan. But ultimately, I am a little bit worried about Illinois, more like the broader scheme of things when they play high level competition, like in the tournament. It's definitely going to be something that I would keep in mind, like when I'm filling out a bracket, obviously. But areas that they can have success, I think they can hold their own in the defensive glass. They can keep Michigan off of the free throw line. Illinois is number 1 nationally in free throw rate allowed, and they're not an elite transition defense. They're solid in transition denial. It is really tough to slow down Michigan in transition, no matter what the scheme is. Duke did a really good job. I'm not sure Illinois can do the same thing here, but I think their ticket is just holding their own inside and forcing Michigan's guards into creating off the bounce, which they've been very hit or miss throughout the entire year. Like Michigan's upside comes when, they're making 35 to 40% of their threes. If they do that, like they're pretty much unbeatable, but forcing Michigan's guards to win in this game, I think is a really big key.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And just talking about that Michigan game last Saturday, watching that game, Michigan, like they didn't turn the ball over like we're used to. They had 7 turnovers in that game, but they were just very out of sync. It felt like flow was not good. Duke did a great job of kind of stunting their ability to get comfortable in the half court. Really made it a half court game. So, credit to Duke for that. But, in this game, I think it's going to be a little bit different for Michigan. I think they're going to be able to get out in transition. I think they're going to have opportunities to really control the pace of this game, as they've done pretty much every night throughout the course of this season, right? They're 15th in tempo. They score the ball at a very high clip, 89 points a game. I'd expect them to be able to have success in this game against an Illinois team, like you said, that has really tried to slow things down. So if they can control the pace, I think it's going to put them in a good spot, especially on the road. I'm going to mention it, even though Illinois is dead last in turnover rate on the defensive end. They're just a conservative defense, but I still think that Michigan at times just decides they're just going to give the ball to the other team from time to time. So I think, just making sure they're taking care of the ball, not allowing guys like Boswell and Wagler to get out in transition, because if they have the opportunity, they are going to take it. They're a good team nonetheless. But, I think if they can create some second chance opportunities, 23rd on the offensive glass, obviously Illinois is a really good defensive rebounding team. This goes way back to the preseason when we talked about Illinois and their rebounding abilities, particularly on the defensive end. So, see if you can generate some second chances. And then I think, taking and making the open shots that Illinois is going to give up. Like they have allowed 39.5% of the jumpers, catch and shoot jumpers against them this year to be unguarded. So it's a fairly large number, and Michigan didn't shoot it well against Duke. They were 6 of 24 from 3, I believe, or somewhere in that ballpark. Just didn't shoot it well. I'd expect them to get some good looks in this game. They just got to knock them down, I think, as easy as it is to say that. They're going to get their fair share of good looks, but I think they set up fairly well in the offensive end, just with their size, I think they should be able to have some success despite Illinois having some size themselves. On the other end, I think this is where it's a little bit more murky, like you said, for Michigan. Even though their defense is elite, second in adjusted defensive efficiency, I think the way it sets up is a little bit questionable because they are going to be able to play pick and pop game, and I'm a little bit worried about that when they're in drop coverage. I think they can show some different things when it's Johnson or Lindeberg. But if it's Mara, they're going to be in drop, and that means probably open threes for Big Z and Tomislav. So you're hoping for misses from them, right? You don't want to see them knock down some shots early. And it sucks to have to like prey on hope here. Hoping those guys don't get going. But I do think like that's what Michigan's going to be willing to give up. So I think what you really have to do is try and defend the ball handler as best as possible, whether that's fighting over the screen or if you're going to go under it, beat them to the other side and at least get a contest or make things a little bit more difficult on them. If they're able to just come off and be comfortable and spin around and hit a nice little easy pass to the big for a wide open catch and shoot three, they're going to be in trouble. So I think that's a big key on the defensive end, and then forcing them to take their dribble jumpers. As good as Wagler is, Boswell too. Like the last two times that Illinois shot double figure dribble jumpers, they've lost. So it's not a shot that they really emphasize. But in those games against UCLA and against Wisconsin, they were in double figures in dribble jumpers. They lost both games. The only other time in the last 10 they've had more than 10 dribble jumpers was against Purdue, and they did win that game, of course. But I do think it's an area where if you can force them to continue to have to take those dribble jumpers, I think you can. You're going to live with that, and analytics say so, right? That's a shot that most teams are willing to give up in today's game, right? Limit second chances is going to be huge. Illinois' third in offensive rebound rate. Michigan allowed 13 against Duke, and they're 68th in defensive rebound rate. They're fine. Like they're obviously a really good rebounding team, but I do think they have some vulnerabilities against top offensive rebounding teams. So trying to shore that up as best as possible so they can get out in transition, right? If they can't get stops, it's really going to stunt their ability to win this game on the road because they're a team that's going to be best suited to get out in transition here on the road. But yeah, I think it should be a really fun game Friday night. Standalone, ranked matchup on Friday here. So it should be a lot of fun. But Cody, transitioning the game picks here. Who are you going with and why?
Yeah, I mean, this should be an awesome game. I think regardless, it's pretty much a coin flip for me. I think both offenses are in pretty good spots. I am kind of interested to see how much Adimar actually ends up playing in this game. I know like he's a very crucial part of what they do, but if Illinois is just kind of killing them in the pick and pop game, and like you said, like they could just be at the mercy of the Illinois bigs shot making, but at the same time, like Illinois needs to shoot it probably 40% from three to win this game or somewhere around there. But I am going to pick them to win this game. I am going to pick Illinois to get the job done at home. I think they're, more inclined to shoot it a little bit better in a home environment. They still prevent transition at a decent rate. And I like the depth of bigs that they have. I like their size to match up with Michigan for, they don't have to win the battle on the glass necessarily, but they need to play it close to even. Just like I said, just a matchup of, two really good offenses that match up fairly well on against each other's defenses. So I will take Illinois to get the job done here. I took them 84-78.
Yeah, I took Illinois as well. I think they're going to have an easier time generating offense in this game. Being at home helps, of course. But I think that Illinois has the shooting to do so. I think Michigan the last week has shown some flaws. They're not playing fantastic over the last week. Granted, like one of them was against Duke. Like Duke's a top 5 team in the country for a reason. But I just think it's they're up against it. Like it should be a really good game. I think either team can win, but I think that just Illinois, their ability to create second chances, their ability to shoot the ball, and the way that Michigan's defense matches up with the Illinois offense leads me to believe Illinois is going to come out on top here. I have Illinois winning this 86-82. Before we wrap things up, Cody, anything else to add?
Not really. I will just say, like, I don't feel good about picking Illinois because, like I said, like they're going to need to make perimeter shots at a high level and contain Michigan in transition. And like, no matter how good your front court is, like Michigan probably has a better one than you regardless. So their size could just overwhelm them throughout this game. But like I said, it's going to be an awesome game.
Yeah, no doubt. So should be a fun one Friday night, but we're going to wrap things up here. Thank you for listening to the Mainly Hoops podcast.